Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Black Girl World Traveler, the podcast. I'm Shira, and today we're going to be talking about balancing acts, navigating work and life as a Black female digital nomad. So last week we talked about sort of the places where you can go in order to fulfill your wanderlust. We talked specifically about Tulum, Mexico, and Washington, D.C., but really you can be a digital nomad anywhere that has access to high-speed internet, and you have some sort of laptop, phone, tablet, iPad. You're free to go anywhere you like. But today I want to talk about the specific and unique challenges that Black women face, and also areas of opportunity that Black women face being digital nomads. I think remote work definitely allows for a more work-life balance. You cannot beat the freedom that comes with, if there's an emergency that happens in your house, you can just close your laptop and tend to it, right? If I have a doctor's appointment at 10 a.m. and my work is task-based, I can take that doctor's appointment without taking PTO. I can handle what I need to do and then come back. But I think that as a Black woman in the workplace, sometimes we face unique challenges in the workplace just in general. So let's talk about the practicalities of work-life balance. The biggest thing with work-life balance, I have realized, is you have got to have boundaries in every aspect of your life, including your work. And so what do I mean by that? You've got to be clear on when you will and will not accept meetings. If meetings are a waste of your time, how do you professionally and appropriately communicate that so that you're not wasting your time? How do you professionally say this could have been an email instead of a 1-hour meeting, right? Not answering your phone after work hours, not answering your work email after work hours. Those are all some basic boundaries that I think we all can implement into our work-life balance as we, try to get to the balance. Now, balance is very hard to achieve. I think it's almost impossible, if I'm being completely honest. But it's constantly juggling like that scale of trying to get everything to like a perfect, even balance. But that's life. I think that the issues that Black women particularly face are, people think that no matter if we are in person or at home, that they have access to us, right? So in person, people might be constantly walking up to your desk or knocking on your door, asking you for things that actually you may not be responsible for, but are somehow expected to produce. And then in remote work, people can just be sending you emails, asking you to do things, set up meetings, complete tasks that are outside the scope of your work or outside your job description. And that can be extremely frustrating. Now, people know how competent Black women are, and they take advantage of that, I think, in all workplaces to further promote the productivity of the business. So what do I mean by that? If you are a project manager and you are really good at managing your projects that you're overseeing, you are taking your projects to where they need to go, you're getting them to the next level. Oftentimes being competent is an excuse for employers to give you more work. Oh, she's competent. She did that in record time. Let's give her 3 more projects. Let's ask her to do more things. And that is a trap. I think it's a trap that Black women fall into because we sometimes have the disease to please. We want to look good to our superiors or just, not be seen as a problem or angry Black woman. So we just take on the extra work without advocating for ourselves. Now, I know this is not everyone's experience, and I know this is not all Black women's experience, but it certainly is a very common theme that I hear and that I've experienced as a Black woman in the workplace. But before I go too deep into that, and I'll provide you with some specific and concrete examples of that, I also want to talk about, with work-life balance, the practicality that freedom of location has on remote life or digital nomad life and freedom location. So it is currently less than 32 degrees freezing in Philly right now, for example. If I had a remote job right now and where I could live and work from anywhere. I could, in theory, go to Puerto Rico. If I had my passport, I can be somewhere in the Caribbean. And that might dramatically change my output of work that I'm able to complete. That's going to may change my mood, because now I'm in the hot Caribbean sun. You know, when I close my laptop, I can be looking at a beach. I could be, walking in a cute little neighborhood. Whereas here, I may not speak to my neighbors as much, but if I'm in a small local town in the Caribbean, I may know all my neighbors, right? It may be such a small town that we all know each other. And so the point that I'm trying to make with freedom location is that you can, when it gets cold in places, you can dip on out, but also you have the ability to sort of carefully curate your surroundings that sometimes is necessary when you're in need of change. So if you're going into the office every day and you want to quit your job, you have to look for another job. But if you are working remotely and let's say, for example, you hate your job, but you get to be in Puerto Rico today, Bali tomorrow, Thailand the next week, it makes it just a lot better. It almost like it makes the challenges that you may face in your workplace a little bit more bearable. Now, I'm not going to say a lot because these workplaces still be on bullshit, even in a remote work setting. But the freedom of location is just something that I cannot underscore enough in the workplace, because I would love to have the opportunity to just get up and go anywhere I want. And that's what Black Girl World Travel is all about. When the wanderlust kicks in, boom, I'm on to the next. So that's just something to think about when thinking about your work-life balance. Do you value freedom of location? Do you value boundaries in your workplace? How do you implement those boundaries? So those are some questions, some food for thought. I'd love to know how you implement boundaries. Let me know. For me personally, I am pretty strict in the workplace. I don't like to befriend my coworkers. Now, this is a major exception from the last job that I had, because we lived together. So I actually ended up befriending some of my coworkers. But in general, I love my boundaries and I want to do my job and I want to go home. Now, I do know that it can be difficult staying productive during remote work and being a digital nomad. I remember being in California and just not wanting to work. I would log on every day and I would have to call individuals and help them with services and stuff. And I remember thinking I just want to be outside in the sun. So I want to talk about tips for productivity during a digital nomad lifestyle. I think the biggest one is going to be you need to get a calendar. I have 3 different calendars. I am going to show you guys one of my calendars right here, my handy dandy. So I have my calendar that comes with my MacBook, the iCalendar, but I also have this desk calendar, and I'm able to write down hour by hour all of my meetings and times. I think sticking to a schedule is going to be super important. Getting up from your bedroom to go in another room, if you can, to work is super helpful, because I find that along with those boundaries, when you have a separation of where you sleep and where you work, it's easier to not combine the two. I know it would be so hard. I would be in the dining room, for example, working on my computer all day, and then I want to take a nap. I was tired. My eyes were tired from being in front of a screen all day, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. So if you can, I would say definitely do not work in your room. And 2, if you can work outside your house, absolutely do that. And 3, write down the schedule. Put it on all your lists, your meetings. If you are going to take a nap, write down your naps. I used to schedule my naps after lunch. So I would pretty much take lunch from 12 to 1 p.m., for example, and then from 1 to 2, I would take a nap every single day. So I essentially had a 2-hour lunch, and it was phenomenal. And when you are working from home, you have the freedom to be able to do that. And I know that I'm giving a lot of these tips, but in reality, it's really hard to practice. And I think that's where self-discipline comes in. You have to have time management. You have to know yourself too. So my 12 to 2 lunch, that was what I needed to be able to work before the 12 and then after the 2 p.m. And honestly, I felt so much more productive doing that. So you just have to know yourself. Like, when are you most productive? Are you most productive in the morning? Schedule your meetings in the morning. If you are like most people and you're not a morning person, do everything in your power to not schedule meetings until the afternoon. I think that that's one of the beauties of remote work, is that you have the ability to sort of curate how you want to work, essentially. I find that when I was in the office, I found that I constantly had to like look like I was working, even though like there was nothing else to do, and it would be like waiting till 5 o'clock, like twiddling my thumbs, if you will. And so with remote work, you have more flexibility in how you want to do things. Like, if you get all your work done by noon, get it done by noon, and then escape for the rest of the day. Then go out to the park, go out to the beach, do whatever you want. But you have to know like how best you work, because it's very easy when you're a remote worker to just brush your teeth, turn on your Zoom, and only have a t-shirt on up, and then like be and then like have on boxers or like shorts, not be dressed at all, and just turn on your Zoom when your meeting's over, close your laptop, and then go back to sleep. That may help for some people who are, burnt out from typical 9-to-5 jobs that are in the workplace. I find that even if you are working from home and where you work remote and you're a digital nomad, you still need to go out and live your life. You still need to touch grass. You still need to like let love and the beauty of the sun shine down on you, even if you are working from home. And one of the freedoms from working from home is that you have a lot more time. Working from home gives you time freedom that an in-person 9-to-5 can never give you. So just think about that as you are, transitioning into your remote work, or if you already are, working as a digital nomad. Consider the ways in which you carefully curate your schedule to align with the ways that you best work. Now, I know I kind of talked about this earlier, but I'm going to spin the block and talk again about successes from working from home. When you work in person in jobs and you interacting with a lot of people, you start to feel false loyalty. I feel like I stayed in a job that was in person a lot longer than I should have, because I had a false sense of loyalty to that job. But when you're a remote worker and when you're a digital nomad, I think it's much easier to quit jobs because you don't have to see these people again. You probably never even met these people. When I was working my job, I felt so bad about quitting. I worked there for 2 years and I stayed there 2 years too long. And I felt so bad. I felt like I would be leaving people, who would do the work. I knew no one could replace me. And I sort of like felt that as like a chip on my shoulder or like a badge of honor in a very humble way. And so I stayed 2 years too long, but then it got to the point where it was too bad. So I decided to quit. But once I quit, I decided I'm going to house sit full time. That's the way I get to travel. We were still in the pandemic. I couldn't travel internationally. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to house sit and I'm going to do what I have to do to travel. So I started house sitting, but of course, I had to pay to get to these places. I house sit in California and Virginia, North Carolina, all over the city. And I wasn't being paid. I was just receiving free accommodation in the places that I would travel to. So I decided that I needed to get a job. And so I applied for this job. It was like basically doing financial services, giving out money, doing some translation work, and really simple. And the first thing they asked me was, what are my time constraints for the job? Like, what days could I work? Because they only wanted someone to work 30 hours per week. And so I told them, I only want to work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. For me as a traveler, I know how to make the most of my time, and I want my extended weekend. So I got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off with that job. I worked 30 hours per week, but I didn't necessarily need the full 30 hours per week. I just was paid 30 hours per week. I was getting paid $30 per hour, and I was able to, travel throughout the day if I needed to, run errands if I needed to, for the pets that I was pet sitting, or take care of something for the homeowner, go for walks. But that was pretty much it. So I had this really simple job, right? And I had a lot of time on my hands. I was not working more than I was working when I had that position. And I wasn't paid minimum wage. I was getting paid $30 an hour. And it was pretty good money. And So that's what I decided to do. But I think that part of the job in itself was a success because I set those boundaries off top. Like, I'm not doing like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm not doing 6 hours per day, 5 days a week when it's only 30 hours. No, I can get it done in 10 hours per day, can work all day, be available all day, and, you know, get it done. And I think what set me apart and why they were compliant basically with me, you know, having that work schedule was I was fluent in Spanish and I presented myself very confidently and I was able to do that. And I think that's also important when you're looking for remote work and when you're negotiating the terms of your work. You have to be confident. You have to know your worth, know what you bring to the table. If you have X criteria, X education, you speak X amount of languages, you've given out this amount of money, you've executed this amount of projects, you need to know those things and know those numbers and know those facts when you're in positions of negotiation with jobs. So that was one thing. I worked three days a week. I was off 4 days a week. And I was able to travel across the United States. And now for me, this was a success. I did that job for a year, but it got to a point where I was bored. You know, I was so bored with my work. I did still have Black Girl World Traveler at the time, but I was deeply unfulfilled by my 9 to 5. And Black Girl World Traveler wasn't going in the direction that I had hoped it would. I had hoped, you know, by 2022, I had hoped to already had extensively backpack Asia, but that didn't happen because of the pandemic. And so I really was not able to invest in Black Girl World Traveler. My mental was not focused on Black Girl World Traveler because I was so heartbroken that I had to just, you know, settle for traveling throughout the United States. And so it got to a point where I was deeply just unfulfilled in my work. They had offered me a full-time position, which would have eventually led to a managerial position, but I didn't want it. I didn't see myself having a career in that field. And I think that in remote work, you have to really get clear and really know your vision about where you're going and what you want to do. Because it's easy when you're at home every day, you close your laptop, you say, this is it, I'm cool. You know, I don't want to do anything else. But really make sure that's what you want to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, don't get comfortable in a job that pays okay or that pays good money, but you don't see yourself going further into that field. Because I do think one of the critiques that I do think is kind of valid about remote work is that you're not seen in remote work, so you may be less likely to get promoted. I mean, people are less likely to promote Black women to leadership positions because those people are racist and they're also intimidated by Black women. But it is true that you are seen less in remote work environments because a lot of times you're doing your work in isolation or you're doing your work in groups, or if you do interact with people, it's probably only people in your department. So you're not really getting that chance to really interact with people as much as you would if you were in person. And so I felt like I wasn't going anywhere with the job. I did not want to be in that field, in that space anymore. I was working at a bleeding disorders organization and I didn't see a career for myself in that. So what did I do? I applied for another job and went on to another remote job that really wasn't remote. It was majority travel, actually. And that was my most recent position that I had. And I say all that to say, really get clear about what your goals are when you start remote work full time. It's easy to just be like, cool, I'm gonna make my 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 and I'm just gonna skate on by. And if you want to do that, more power to you. You know, we as Black women deserve rest. And if you don't want to be an overachiever, you have every right to be a basic Black woman doing a damn thing. And if that's what you want, that's cool. But if you're like me, someone who is so ambitious and always wants more, you're going to have to get really clear about what you want and how you're going to make that happen. Now, for me, I decided that I wanted to go into entrepreneurship, and that's where I am now with Black Girl World Traveler. We have our blog, blackgirlworldtraveler.com. We have our travel agency, also at blackgirlworldtraveler.com. And soon, you'll be able to buy Black Girl World Traveler products. We currently have our t-shirts and crew necks available online at blackgirlworldtraveler.com. But there's a lot more coming, right? I want to host group trips for Black women and I'm delving full time in entrepreneurship and empowerment of Black women. But I had to go through all of those sort of, I'm not going to call them BS jobs, but what I'm going to say jobs that ultimately would have led me to nowhere to get me where I am today. So if you are just starting your remote digital nomad journey, I would definitely say get a clear idea about what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, you need to start spending 5 to 10 minutes every day by yourself, having to check in with yourself. 1, how do I feel today? 2, how do I want to feel going forward? What kind of impact do I want to have? Do I want to have impact? What do I enjoy doing? That is a big question. I think that no matter what type of work you do, you should be asking yourself. I'm sure we all know people and we've interacted with these professionals that absolutely hate their jobs. And you're like, yo, why are you here? It's a choice to be here. That's the beauty of life. We have the ability to choose our path. And so when you are figuring out what it is you want to do, you got to get really, really clear about your goals. I hope I provided you with some tangible tips, 5 to 10 minutes every day. And if you have to just sit in silence, I would say, meditation is always helpful. So that could be one way to help you hear your inner voice. And so you can start listening to your heart about what it is you were placed on this earth here to do. And I know that mine is to empower Black women. I know that mine is to go as high as possible and to continue to reach new heights. Travel is the mechanism and the vehicle that I'm doing at right now, but I know that my purpose is way bigger than travel. But I also know that Black Girl World Traveler is the vehicle by which that I get to that higher purpose. And so I hope that you learn something. I hope that you take your digital nomad journey to whatever heights that you would like it to go. If you want it to just be a job and you close your laptop and you enjoy the scenery in front of you, I think that we as Black women have totally earned that right as well. I think all people have earned that right, no matter who you are. So thank y'all so much for listening to this episode of Black Girl World Traveler, the podcast. I'm Shira. I am so grateful that you all continue to ride with me on this journey. We're putting out the podcast every week. Y'all are committed, sharing the podcast. Please continue to do so. Please follow me at Black Girl World Traveler on Instagram, Black Girl World with a T at the end on Twitter. You can send me any feedback that you have at blackgirlworldtraveler@gmail.com or on our website at blackgirlworldtraveler.com. Check out our new Black Girl World Traveler merch at blackgirlworldtraveler.com and check out our travel posts to get some ideas about where you can start your digital nomad journey. I'm Shira and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.